All right, we're going to look at the next lesson, which is multiplying whole numbers by decimal numbers. This is lesson, chapter 6, lesson 3, day 75. We're not going to use any of the My Math materials today because they use the scooping method, and we're not going to use the scooping method because it doesn't match the language of the standard. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. This is going to relate very closely to the work that we did yesterday. We're having 6 groups of 7/10. To do our estimate, we're thinking about this 2 different ways. The first way we can do our estimate is rounding to the nearest whole number. So 7/10 rounds to 1. 6 is obviously already a whole number. 6 times 1 is 6. So our answer should be about 6. Another way that we want kids thinking about this work is that we know that 7/10 is less than 1 whole. And so I'm multiplying 6 by a number less than 1 whole, which means that my answer should be less than 6. If we're getting a number that's greater than 6, that's not reasonable. All right, so now what we're going to have students do, it's just like yesterday, we're going to rewrite 7/10 from a decimal into a fraction. So now I'm going to rewrite 7/10 as 7/10. I'm writing 6 groups of 7/10. We already know how to do this multiplication. 6 over 1 times 7 over 10 gives me 42/10. I can regroup. If you need to, your students can draw these number bonds again and do 4 groups of 10/10. So 10/10 and 10/10 and 10/10 and 10/10 and 2/10. Or we can just go ahead and write 4 and 2/10. The way that we want students thinking about this is that we're doing 6 groups of 7/10, which is the same as 42/10. Going back to our estimation, 4.2, 4 and 2/10 is pretty close to 6. Also, 4 and 2/10 is less than 6, so I know that this is a reasonable answer. Next one, we're doing the exact same work. The only reason that I included this is that now I end up with a product that's greater than 1 whole, right? So we still have 35 hundredths times 3. My answer should be close to 0. 35 hundredths is less than 1, so my answer should be less than 3. But when I go ahead and I use this multiplication, writing it as a fraction first, I end up with 105 hundredths. What we want students thinking about is like, I have 1 whole, because I have 100 hundredths, and then I also have 5 hundredths left over, so 105 hundredths is the same as 1 and 5 hundredths. Students should do their scratch work over here on the side. Let's look at the next one. The next problem, so this problem is different than the other two, and now I'm multiplying what would become a mixed number by a whole number, right? So like the previous two were numbers, the decimal numbers were less than 1 whole. Here we can round. 4 and 75 hundredths rounds to 5. 6 times 5 is about 30, so he should be spending about 30 bucks on his books. Another thinking that we want to do here is like, well, 4 and 75 hundredths is greater than 1 whole, so my answer should be greater than 6 because I know that 4 and 75 hundredths is greater than 1 whole. This problem, this is where kids are going to struggle. Here we have to write 4 and 75 hundredths. First we write it as a mixed number, and then we write it as an improper fraction. So going ahead and writing this decimal number as an improper fraction. Now we're doing the same multiplication. Here we're showing our multiplication on the side. Well, it might be interesting to have a conversation with students about like why we decide to keep the decimal in the hundredths place. Obviously it's money, so like that's why we decide to keep it as 50 cents. The last one is more like error analysis. My answer is there. All right, thanks.